Will you be the death of me?
Hello one and all, and welcome back to the nastiest channel of your nastiest fantasies. I, of course, am your nasty-ass host, the Nasty Bedazzler. Now, today we're going to be taking a look at a nasty game called Trials Evolution on the Xbox 360, which is, you can see it right there behind me. There she is. Now, this might be a newer 360 for me, but this is not my first rodeo with this console. This is actually my fourth one, and I'll talk about that momentarily. But before we go into that, I just want to wish my beautiful and wonderful girlfriend, Satin, a belated happy birthday. Now, she's not a stripper. I can see why you would assume that with her name. We just work together. But, yeah, we went to Dave & Buster's for her birthday, played some arcade games and shit, and it was a great time. And here's hoping that we never break up, just because I don't want to have to resent this video for doing that shout out later. I'm joking. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about this 360 some more, shall we? So like I said, this is my fourth console here. Now, the other three died the red ring of death. The first one I bought myself, the other two were replacements from Microsoft, and they refused to replace it a fourth time. I was pretty pissed off about it. I vowed to never buy another Microsoft console again, and yet here we are. However, I'm not a sellout though. I did buy this one secondhand, so Microsoft didn't get any of that money, so I feel pretty good about that. However, this is the only console I do have that I did not mod myself, and if you ever look up how to do an RGH mod, you'll understand why I chose not to do that. It is such a pain in the ass, and I just opted to skip all of that. So this is RGH modded. It's got a hard drive inside with all the games that I want to play on it, so we'll be taking a look at some games in the future here. But for today, we're going to be looking at Trials Evolution. Now, this game was developed by Red Lynx, and it was published by Ubisoft and Microsoft Game Studios. This bad boy came out on Xbox Live Arcade, and it was released in 2012. Now, there was a physical release for this one. I believe it came out in 2015, and that is just the standard game, but with the DLCs included. So is this game any fun? Yes, it is. I actually have never played this before this review, and that's a bummer because this game turned out to be pretty awesome. Let's take a look at it now. At first glance, you might be mistaken into thinking that this is just a standard time trial / racing game on a dirt bike, and I couldn't blame you for thinking that because that's exactly what it looks like, but you'd be an idiot for thinking that, and you should feel pretty embarrassed. It's disgusting. However, after spending a few minutes with the game, you'll realize that it's so much more than that. This is an arcade title through and through. If you've ever played Cruisin' Blast or Cruisin' USA or other similar racing titles, those will give you a good idea of what's going on. Though you are never racing against opponents here, you're more or less racing against the clock, but the stages are full of insanity with explosions, falling platforms, or a full-on war zone you race through to get to the finish line. You'll die a lot in this game, and I do mean die horrifically while trying to beat the level, and you'll almost always certainly die when you cross the finish line, which is always awesome. This game kills you for winning, and I love that. Hold on, I'll show you some clips. And that's just great. The game kills you after you've beaten the level, but dying throughout each stage repeatedly while you're actually trying to beat it can be pretty frustrating, though never Sonic CD levels of frustrating since that game kind of sucks. And this one definitely does not. Yeah, I just brought it up because I just reviewed it, but the courses are just short enough here where it's never really a slog to get through any of them, most of them lasting just a minute or two, so even if it's frustrating, you'll never be stuck for too long, and even if you are, you can usually just skip the stage up to a point. You lose the stage by crashing if you can wrap your head around that in a game where you ride a dirt bike, and that usually happens when you don't land your bike particularly well or just run into some sort of obstacle and break your goddamn neck. Again, I know that might be hard to wrap your brain around, but it is how it is. I'll talk about level progression in a bit, but it's nothing too nuts. The main goal here is to simply not drive like an asshole and kill the driver. Seriously, this game is pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of nonsense here, unlike this review where I'm padding the shit out of it to make it longer because that's what people want. Honestly, a review for this game should be 5 minutes tops, and I'm sure it'll exceed that by quite a lot. Okay, so anyway, when you complete a level, you're awarded one of 3 medals. Bronze, silver, and gold, which can't be a foreign concept to anyone, but maybe it is. It's like the bullshit Olympics, but just not as shitty since playing this game doesn't wipe out entire local economies and displace hundreds or thousands of people like the Olympics do. Now at this point, it appears that I'm more than halfway through the game. Yeah, this is one of those reviews where I haven't actually beaten the game first, which I almost always try to do, but I probably won't beat this one for a long time since the difficulty has gone through the roof, so I had to make do with what I've experienced so far. But aside from all that, I can't really say that it really matters what medal you get in order to progress through the game. The only thing that matters is that you get a medal and complete a track in order to progress forward. From what I can tell, there's no unlocks or anything like that associated with what medal you get. I might be wrong on this, but I'm going specifically on what the game is showing me as I play. I could look this up, but what fun is that? Course unlocks is based strictly on whether or not you got any medal on previous courses, and that's all it takes to keep progressing through the game. If you are going for the gold though, as far as I know, you can't use any checkpoint restarts, which I will discuss momentarily, but you can easily get a silver medal while doing that. If you are a hardcore completionist, you'll have your work cut out for you here, getting a gold on every track, because this game isn't easy, but it's not impossible to get a silver medal on most courses by just playing through them 1 or 2 times. And the courses that you really struggle with, you can just glide through by just completing it and taking your bronze medal and moving on, or just skipping it as long as you get enough medals on the other courses to unlock the new ones. Did you get all that? Goddamn. Okay, so let's talk about the controls. The controls in this piece of shit are very friendly, and I don't know why I called it a piece of shit because this game is awesome. But look, even if you suck at games, this one is pretty easy to wrap your head around. You have a brake, gas, and you can lean forward or back on your bike to shift your weight and control your bike as you go through the air or climb ramps by pressing either forward or backward on the D-pad or the analog stick. You'll need to know when to press the gas or when to lay off or even brake in certain situations, otherwise you'll overshoot an obstacle and die a horrific death. But that's all you need to know in order to play the game, though there are some advanced techniques to learn later on, but they all fall within these simple control guidelines. So even though the game gets intense, the general control scheme does not. You still know what you gotta do, even if you're losing, and there's so many times throughout a course you'll feel like you're driving like a total maniac and almost lose control of your bike constantly, and it's just putting into practice what you already know, which is the hard part, because things get intense fast and you don't have a lot of time to think and react. There's so many times in a certain course where I know what I gotta do, but I'm just sucking total ass at doing it, and that's kind of what makes this game fun and infuriating, but mostly fun. And when you're doing terribly on a course, which is almost always, you can also instantly restart any track from the beginning by pressing the back button on the controller, or restart at your last checkpoint, which there's usually one every couple of seconds, by pressing the B button. However, when you do this, the timer will continue to progress forward exactly where it was at when you chose to respawn. So even though you went backward on the course and lost progress, you also lost precious seconds on the timer. If you're going for the gold, you'll want to restart the course. If you just want to progress forward, just hit B and restart at a checkpoint. If you're feeling nasty, you can also just blow up your bike if you feel like going out like a boss and starting over by pressing Y. It's all very intuitive and easy to get a grasp on, but this game is not easy by any stretch. Have I said that? It's one of those games where the mechanics are simple, but actually mastering them and performing the way each course wants you to can take a ton of practice. Think of Super Meat Boy, but on dirt bikes. It can be hard as shit, but learning how the game works is simple as hell. Super Meat Boy is actually a good comparison to this game as a whole since they have a lot in common. The levels are meant to be short bursts that you can memorize and then destroy once you figure out what each level wants from you. And you're just going from one point to another while dodging obstacles to get there. As far as gameplay goes, this one is super easy to explain, so I won't spend much time on it. As much as I would love talking about it forever, there's just not much to it. Every level is a collection of obstacles like ramps and pits, and all you gotta do is figure out the best way to get around them. There are some fun situations like water geysers and catapults that will blast you into the air, but those are few and far between. The basic level design is pretty much the same throughout the entire game. It's just the way they are set up that makes the level either easy or fucking ridiculous. Some levels you can just lay on the gas and blast your way through it start to finish. Others you need to be mindful of your speed and apply the brake when it's needed or risk crashing. And it's all about the levels here, and I'll dive into that now. There's a lot going on in this game, and most of the levels are straightforward, but there are a lot of visual effects and whatnot going on throughout each stage. As you race to the finish, there's going to be tons of explosions, battle scenes, and other general fuckery that I think is meant to be there as a distraction in order to cause you to crash, and it does a great job at that since I think one of my biggest complaints with this game is sometimes you'll have no idea what's going on. Again, it's not like Sonic CD levels of what the fuck do I do, but many times there is so much happening on screen that it's easy to get disoriented and lose sight of the track and your driver and instantly break your neck and die. And if you didn't watch my Sonic CD review, watch it. But not only that, some stages are set at night, and thankfully this is very infrequent, but I found these stages to be insanely difficult simply because you can't see what the F is going on or what's in front of you. In these stages, you're relying solely on your bike's headlights or the light of the moon or fire or something similar to light up the course, and it can suck all the dick. Like for real, all the dick. And yeah, it's language like this that has me at only 158 subscribers a year after starting this channel, and I don't care because that's what my primitive caveman brain wants me to say to drive this point home. I can't sugarcoat the way I talk just so YouTube's algorithm likes my channel and suggests it to people. LOL, am I right, guys? Well, whatever. Tell your friends if you like this channel, spread the word because YouTube simply won't. That's all, guys. Thank you, I love you. Anyway, I think that's actually my biggest complaint here, not about YouTube, but about this game, is that the developers got a little too creative with the visual effects, and it fucks with your playthrough, and it makes things tougher than they should be, and that should never be the case in a game like this, because this game is already hard as balls, and it requires perfection. Yeah, all the bells and whistles are fun, and at this point in the console generation, I think games look great, but it should never be distracting to the point where you lose or have no idea what is going on in the track. If it weren't for this, I think this would be a near-perfect game. Speaking on that, do I need to cover the graphics here? At this point, games just generally look good, so I'll shorten this review by just saying this game looks good. I actually love the way games look on the 360. It's gotten to a point where it's great, and it doesn't really need to be mentioned anymore unless a developer just completely shits the bed, which Red Lynx didn't do here, so that's it for that. So in real life, I'm drinking a lemon-flavored White Claw, and it tastes like piss. And in this game, you'll earn currency, and there's no real microtransactions here or anything shitty like that, thank God. You can upgrade your driver with new gear, but it's strictly cosmetic, and something I never did once because I just don't care. This isn't Elden Ring, and honestly, I don't care what my driver looks like, but it's there if you're into that sort of thing. There's also unlockable bikes, but these aren't purchased, they are earned through progression. As you progress through the game and upgrade your driver's license, which I'm not sure how that makes sense, since you don't need a driver's license to ride a dirt bike, but as you do that, you get access to new bikes, which the ones you unlock are better than the ones you currently had. It makes sense, right? And then you might think to yourself, well now, why don't I just go back and get a gold medal on the courses I had a hard time with, since now I have access to a better bike? Well, you can do that. You can use the new bikes on old tracks that you weren't able to access those bikes on before, but let me forewarn you, this isn't going to be the godsend that you think it would be. The courses that you've already completed were designed with your slower, shittier bike in mind, and your brand new bikes that people would ride to impress the ladies won't necessarily work the way you want them to on these old courses. In my opinion, this is kind of a genius design because you now need to relearn how to play these courses with the better, faster bikes. If you try to just speed through them, you're going to be constantly breaking your neck and overshooting ramps and obstacles that were designed with the slower bikes in mind. Trust me, I figured this out real quick when I thought I was a smart boy and went back and played old courses with the newer bikes thinking I would obliterate them. That's just not how the game works. You'll have to figure out how to work the old courses with the new bike. So it'll still take just the same amount of trial and error and patience trying to win a gold on an old course with a new bike. There's no shortcuts here. Sorry if that was confusing. I did the best I could. Let's move on to one of the last points here and talk about the music for like 1 minute, which I'll play none of because it all sounds like it's probably copyrighted, and I don't need YouTube to shit on me any more than it already does, since I make adult-oriented content for adults and they only want me to make infant-oriented content for infants. It's an interesting mix of hip-hop, metal, rock, and electronic, and it all mostly works, though since it's not Kids Bop, YouTube would probably hate it. Do I sound salty about this? Yeah, it's annoying. Anyway, I don't know how this game picks and chooses its songs throughout because some courses have generic music playing while others have what sounds like licensed music from radio bands, all seemingly at random. This game does almost everything right though, and the soundtrack works great here, regardless if it's licensed or generic. Honestly, it's not my favorite kind of music. I love most of these genres, but I'm not a big fan of the radio-friendly variants, but it really works well for the game. The sound design is also really good. Everything sounds the way it should, and all the bike sound effects and explosions and other stage nonsense here is expertly done. There's a lot of humorous vocals dispersed throughout too, as your driver will say ridiculous things while jumping off ramps and catching what can only be described as mad air, but will also moan and cry like a baby when he crashes and gets hurt. It's great, and this game doesn't fuck any of it up in that department, so it gets top marks here. There's also a couple DLCs available, which I believe come standard with the physical edition, if you choose to buy it that way, called Trials Evolution Gold Edition. And that's also on Steam, which I just found out while writing this, so you can play it on your PC if you want. I've got the DLC on my 360, but I haven't tried it out yet as I'm still working through the main game, so I can't comment on that for this review. What I can tell you is that these include one additional bike that you still need to unlock through progression and a ton of new courses to try out, and I assume these are insanely difficult tracks given that they are called Riders of Doom and Origin of Pain. So there you go, you little cuties. That's Trials Evolution for you on the Xbox 360. Now, this is a great game, and it's an excellent game, too, if you're just looking to pick up and play something very briefly. The levels are short, and you can just play a couple levels in just a couple of minutes. So this is fun, and I definitely recommend it to anybody. Now, look, if you don't have an Xbox 360, like I said, this game is also available on Steam, so you can get it there, and I think it's a very reasonable price. I think it's like $15. I'm actually not sure. I didn't fact check that. I'm just pretty sure I read it somewhere, but I might be completely wrong. But anyway, guys, that's the game for you. Thanks for watching this review. If you liked this, tell your friends, let them know about the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.
Hey, you okay? Damn, what the hell's wrong with you?
What the hell's wrong with you?
Nothing till now.
Aw, would I hurt you?
That's all right, I'll live. Yeah, you hit pretty good for a girl.